Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here. Before I go too far into this, I want to say that if you're looking to find out how to install free McBoot, this is not the video for you. This is a video about me using the program and what I think of it and so on. So, yeah. Anyway, so guys, I got a package, except there's nothing in it because I already opened it. Yeah, so it wasn't this. That would have been impressive if that fit in there, but no. What it was this memory card, which I'll talk about a little bit in a moment. Basically, when I recently made a series of the 6th generation of game consoles, PS2, GameCube, Xbox, Dreamcast, and obviously that includes the PS2. And what I said in that video about the PS2 was that it was one of the most import-unfriendly consoles ever, and that the method you have to use to play imports such as Transformers, Tetekai, or Knights. Yeah, I know, Knights got a PS2 release, isn't that? That's special, isn't it? Sega of Japan put out a lot of PS2 stuff that they did not release anywhere other than Japan. But anyway, in order to play those games, you would have to use this. This is called Swap Magic. There's 2 discs, one for DVD games, one for CD games. CD games are the ones with the blue bottoms. You'd have to slightly modify your console depending on which version you've got. Either one would work. And ultimately what you do is you put this disc in, wait for a certain point, the disc stops spinning, you take the disc out, and then you pop in your import and it'll run the game. Again, you have to slightly modify your console. That's the method used to play burned games. It was also just happened to be the way that you could play imports, which is what I used it for. And so a bunch of people were telling me, like, dude, you don't have to do all that crap. Just get free McBoot. It'll solve all your problems. And I was like, okay. So I did some research. And what free McBoot is basically just an exploit in the PS2. When Sony built this thing, they designed it to be firmware upgradable. I still credit the Xbox as being the first true console to be able to do firmware updates because it can do it internally. The PS2 and the Dreamcast both do it, but they do it through memory card exploits. The Dreamcast, I think, only used it for Puyo Pot Fever, or Puyo Fever, I think it was what they called it in Japan, to update like the BIOS that had more colors or something. And in the case of the PS2, I know that Sony at one point released an update for their DVD drive, and I know that because it came with the official PlayStation magazine, and I had it as a kid, and it's still sitting here on my old memory card that has a happy face on it. But they never really used it again. My theory on that is that those updates can be relatively big, 4 megabytes, ooh, I know, but the card only holds 8 megabytes, so. And there's only 2 memory card slots, and the card is required for the update to take effect. So my guess is they thought, well, this could get out of control really quickly, so they never did it. That's my guess. I don't actually know. But it just sat there, unused, as an exploit, and eventually modders took advantage of it and created free McBoot. Now, apparently I'm one of the last people to the party on this. A ton of people knew about this software. I'd never heard of it ever. So you probably know more about this already than I do, but if you don't, your lucky day, I'll explain it to you. So basically, once you have a memory card that has been preloaded with that software, or if you load it on there yourself, which is tricky. It's something I have the technical knowledge to do, but I didn't want to do. I needed another memory card because, like I said, I only have this one, and it was basically full. So I said, I gotta go buy another memory card. And I went out, and I went to eBay, and there was a guy actually selling these with free McBoot pre-installed. And I was like, I'm willing to spend the extra couple bucks to get that thing and save myself a headache and a bunch of time. So that's exactly what I did. Hence the little envelope at the beginning of the video. The guy actually was funny. He messaged me after I bought the item, and he just writes, "Figure it out, dude. I watch your videos," which was, I was not expecting that. That was pretty cool. But anyway, so he sent me a 16 megabyte memory max card, or max memory card, which is nice because the original only has 8 megabytes, and it still operates as a normal memory card, in addition to having this exploit on it. Now you're feeling like, well, okay, you keep talking about this, what does this exploit do? Well, I thought what it allowed you to do was to play imports natively. And I guess technically it would allow you to play burn games natively. In all honesty, I really do not burn games. I really don't. I just want... I used to when I was a kid, but now I don't. Now I want legitimate stuff, but I would like my legitimate stuff to actually work on the console. So I thought this would solve that problem. It doesn't. What it does is it boots up into a different menu, and it shows you all sorts of features. You can add features to it and so on. But for the most part, I was like, well, if it doesn't play imports this way, then I don't have much use to it. Until I kind of learned about what's called HD Loader, and there's another version of it called like Open PS2 or something, that allows you to play games via these USB ports, which I'm going to amend a statement. I guess I didn't say it wrong, but I never made it. The PS2 was the first console ever to use USB ports. I should have said that in the PS2 recap video. But these USB ports are USB 1.1, so if you put a hard drive in there, if you put a flash drive in there, the read speed will be very, very bad. It will actually be less than it would be off of a disk. However, this is one thing I love about consoles, is that they're always surprising us. I don't know how many of you realize this, because I didn't for the longest time. The back of the PS2, which I have open here, has a piece of plastic here normally that says expansion bay. You can take that out, and inside there's a docking bay basically for a hard drive. It's one of those things, you just see it there forever and you never really know what it does. Now Sony almost didn't take advantage of this at all. Eventually they released a broadband adapter here, which you connect on the back of the console through this port that's there and here, and then you'd have access to online gameplay. But it also had the necessary ability to connect a hard drive. Now this is an IDE hard drive, that's what it supports, and here's one right here. And you just connect it like this, and bam, you have a hard drive installed. And of course, if you just go like that, bam, hard drive installed. Now with Free McBoot in place, it will actually detect that hard drive, and it will format it for you to its necessary settings. Now this, of course, does not work on the Slim. You can get Free McBoot to work on here, but it will not work with that hard drive, obviously. However, it will work with things through USB, if you want that. Basically what I'm saying is if you're getting into Free McBoot, I recommend this version, the PS2. Unless your intention is to just play burned discs and import discs, the PS2 Slim is slightly easier for that. Now, basically what I'm saying there is, upon doing research once I had Free McBoot, I realized that playing imports is actually no easier than it is when you have the legitimate copies of Swap Magic. What people were able to do was to basically take Swap Magic and boil it down to like a little file that you can load onto your memory card. And then you can tell the PS2, like, okay, read that file, and it'll open up essentially Swap Magic. But in order to work, you have to have a game of your region in there, and then swap it out at the appropriate time, and then put in your import or burned game, which is what I already had to do when I had this. It didn't help in any way. But if you don't have this, and I'm guessing most of you don't because this is a very hard thing to find now, then yes, it would help you do that. But for me personally, it wasn't doing anything. So sitting there going like, okay, this was kind of a loss because this didn't do anything for me. But again, going back to the hard drive, I discovered that there was actually some usefulness that was going to come out of this. Because the Free McBoot exploit existed, and because it can format a hard drive and detect a hard drive, and because there's hard drive programs, well, I'm sure you know a long time ago where I was going with this, you can rip games to the hard drive and play them directly off of the hard drive. And that's awesome because it, one, it doesn't care about region coding at all once you've got the games on there, which I'll go into in a moment. You can use the PS2 itself to rip games, but only games of your region. Which means if I put this game in there and try to rip it to the hard drive, it won't work. It won't read it. So what do? Well, I discovered that through some software, I can't remember the name of the program. I'll put it right up here. I'll display it. Through that program, you can connect this hard drive to your PC, provided one of two ways. You can either do it if you have a computer that's old enough to still have IDE on it. You can connect it in directly. Your PC will not recognize it natively. It'll detect there's something there, but it won't know exactly what it is. But the software will. Or you get this, something like this. Some people refer to this as a drive sled. Basically what it is a USB to IDE or SATA device that allows you to connect your hard drive and basically make your computer think it's an external drive. That's what I use. Now you connect that and you run this software, and the software will see the hard drive, and your computer, you can just put any PS2 game in there, import, native copy, whatever it is, you put it in there, and the software, you can tell it just, hey, rip the game directly to the hard drive, and that's exactly what it does. It transfers it right over. And then once all of the data is on there, you put it all back in your PS2, and the software on the free McBoot will recognize it and in most cases be able to run it, which is pretty sweet. Now, the advantages of that, of course, are that thing doesn't care about region coding at all. It'll play the ripped ones. And it'll preserve your imports, it'll preserve your rare games. Now, I don't have a whole lot of super rare games, but if the ones I do, I put on there just so they're preserved on there, and if I'm going to play them, I'll do it that way, and I'll just leave my nice copies alone. And of course, the thing about it that's absolutely fucking amazing, the load times. Holy shit. I swear, it goes at like, it's amazing. It goes like 10 times faster than off of a disc. If you're anything you got rare, anything that's an import, or anything where you're going to be playing for a long time and there's just a lot of loading time, that's the way to go, is to play them directly off of a hard drive. There's one thing I want to note here, because this was hard information to discover. On the back of an IDE hard drive, you see right there, you see there's that little white part. Now that's a piece of plastic that I can't remember the name of exactly, but it identifies what the hard drive is, if it's the master drive, it's the slave drive, etc. And when you have it in your PS2, it has to be set all the way to the left here, at least in the case with this hard drive. It has to be set to master mode, whereas if you put it in your PC, you have to take this thing just out, because at least if you're using one of these, because your PC will be confused and not recognize it, so that's worth noting. And then put it back in when you're ready to put it into the PS2 again. What I want you to take away from this is, this thing, Free McBoot, exists. It's neat. I would recommend using it, provided you have the ability to take advantage of it and install it yourself and all that. The great thing about this is that it doesn't require any modification to your console whatsoever. Every single fat model will work, and almost all of the slim models will work. Some of the later ones, they blocked it out in some way. But don't think of it as this thing that's just going to give you access to burned games and let your imports work, because I thought my imports would just work, so I was very disappointed when that didn't happen. The only saving grace was this hard drive ability, but the only reason I'm able to take advantage of that is because I had all the other shit required. I had old IDE hard drives, I had one old IDE hard drive sitting around from an old computer I had like in the early 2000s, the aughts. So that was just sitting around doing nothing. 80 gigabytes, not a shit ton of space, but enough to house a few imports. I had the broadband adapter. This thing's like a $25 thing now. It's not particularly common. I got mine for like $6 at a bookstore a few years ago, and I already had the drive sled thing. So what I would say is the hard drive thing is neat as fuck, but I wouldn't recommend going out and getting all this shit, because it'll add up and it won't really be worth your time anymore. But if you have all the components, or maybe you have like most of them, like if you have both of these and you just need to pick up this, then yeah, maybe. But that's really, I just wanted you guys to get my take on it, what my experience of using it was, and of course to address all the people who recommended that I use Free McBoot. And I want you to know that it was not the experience I really wanted with it. But I will say that if there is some app for Free McBoot that allows import games to work natively, please tell me what it is, because I could not find one. Even their version of Swap Magic, it does not do it. So, yeah, if there's something that will basically unlock the region coding, I'd love to know. But other than that, yeah. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later.